Hey Nate, hey team, this is Nathan from RunDreamAchieve.com. Hope you're all having a great weekend. I wanted to talk on this topic of a 10-mile time trial training plan. And I know a lot of athletes around the world are trying to run faster over the 10-mile distance or 16 kilometers. I always say to have a plan and plan your work and work your plan. It's much easier to focus on a 16-week block of training or 4 months or even like 12 weeks if you know what you need to be doing on a daily basis. One of the best parts about being a mentor and a coach here on RunDreamAchieve.com and here on the YouTube channel is I get to use the expertise and the background that I've been taught over the years by really some world-class coaches in Jack Hazen, Dr. Joe Vigil. Jack has been at Malone University for about 52 years now. He's coached multiple world championships, type athletes, Olympians. Dr. Joe Vigil, one of the best exercise physiologists in the world, and I had the great opportunity of being coached for 3 years when I was with the Army World Class Athlete Program by Lisa Ransberger. Now Lisa won the 1985 Boston Marathon championships. She actually won Boston and was the last American female to win the Boston Marathon prior to Desiree Linden winning it, and I believe it was 2018 that she won. And so these coaches and athletes taught me the importance of patience and not being in a rush to get in great 10-mile shape or 5K shape or half marathon or marathon shape. When you're doing a 10-mile time trial, it's always wise to not be, tired and fatigued going into that 10-mile time trial. You want to have some form of recovery going into that so you can really attack and go as fast as you possibly can for that 10-mile time trial. Also, remember pacing when you're running an all-out 16-kilometer time trial. You do not want to go out the first 5K at 40 seconds faster than your goal race pace. You want to have a plan in place as you're going into those first few kilometers, the first few miles of the time trial. Don't be too aggressive too early. You want to focus on really the second half of that, the last 8 kilometers or the last 5 miles of that 10-mile time trial to really finish fast. And a big mistake that a lot of athletes make in middle to long distance races is we misinterpret our pace. We go far too fast, far too aerobic in the early stages of our races. And it's a mistake that I made too over the years. Sometimes when you're in great anaerobic shape, you have to take some risks. And the only way you're truly going to learn what you possibly, what you really can do is unless you take some risk. And when you take those risks, make sure that you're in great physical shape, mental shape, because it's not fun to finish a race jogging and being, whether that's several minutes or several seconds slower than your goal race pace and getting to the finish line in a time that you really don't want. As we talk about 10 miles, it's a combination of aerobic and anaerobic components of this particular event. The 10-mile distance pretty much is my favorite distance. I ran 50-54 for the distance. That came in a 10-mile split in my half marathon PR. I went through 50-54 at the 10-mile point when I finished in 107.06 at the Philadelphia half marathon in 2007. I ran 51-29 in an open 10-miler at the Cherry Blossom 10-miler in 2007 as well. Very competitive race. The winner ran like 46:40s. I highly recommend if you want to do a 10-mile time trial, some of the races I would definitely recommend is the Army 10-miler in DC, the Cherry Blossom 10-miler also in DC. There is a race in Philadelphia. I'm trying to think of the name of it. The 10-miler. There's a fast race in Philadelphia. I'll leave the link below in this video because I can't remember the race, but it's a very fast, flat event, no hills. Definitely, if you're going to do a time trial for 10 miles, find a course where there's very little rolling hills. Preferably, if you're going to do a 10-mile time trial for over that distance, try to aim to do that time trial on a cool day rather than a hot day. It's much easier. I mean, if it's going to be warm on the day that you're going to be doing this, make sure you get up very early. I prefer you do have breakfast, preferably 2 hours prior to doing that 10-mile time trial. That way you have enough time for your body to, to digest the food that you're ingesting. It's always wise to do, if you're going to do a time trial and you have it planned out, make sure you focus on the food intake, the food that you're ingesting the week before that 10-mile time trial, rather than the morning of and the night before, because really it's the food that you eat and ingest the week before that 10-miler that's really going to help you come the morning of the race or the morning of the 10-mile time trial. Continue to focus on training well below your goal 10-mile race pace. My goal was always to go under 50 minutes. I didn't quite get there, but I found out that my best events really were the half marathon and marathon events. But whatever goal time you have, whether that's breaking 60 minutes for the 10-mile distance, you have to get accustomed to what 6-minute mile pace feels like. You got to get that pace to feel easier. And it's not going to be an easy process to do that, because again, it's if you can do 3 to 4 miles at 6-minute mile pace, it's a good indication that you can do it for 10 miles. It's just a matter of building a strong foundation of mileage and then working your plan in terms of your anaerobic training, speed sessions on the track, running at sub 5-minute mile pace for speed sessions. And I'm talking like 200s to 300s, up to around 400 meter of repetitions. You can do those types of intervals. They're short enough where you can still run under 5-minute mile pace for those intervals. And have the time allotted to recover between each one of those hard efforts. And you also want to have some time in your train up for this 10-mile time trial at paces that are somewhat closer to a few seconds slower than your goal race pace, preferably around like 6:10 to 6:15 mile pace. And you can run at those types of efforts for your tempo, your AT runs where you're running at your anaerobic threshold. I'm a big believer in longer tempo runs, but it's not something that you're going to be doing immediately. You start off, if I'm training for a 10-miler, and I've done this several times in the past, I would get to a point where I could do tempos anywhere from 5 to 7 miles in length. It wasn't quite at my race pace, but it was slightly slower than my race pace. But start off at maybe it might be 2 to 3 miles tempo efforts early on in your buildup, and then get to a point where you get it out to around 5 to 7 miles, preferably around 6 to 7 miles in length. That's going to make you very strong for a 10-mile time trial too, because again, you're getting accustomed to running with higher amounts of lactic acid buildup. And what's great about running at the AT pace is you can handle that for longer periods of time, for several miles, rather than if you're training at your VO2 max. That's sprint effort. I mean, I can't, even when I was at my fittest, I couldn't run at VO2 max effort, but only for a few minutes, really. I could do 2-mile repetitions when I was at my fittest at under 10-minute mile pace, doing repeat 2 miles on the track anywhere in the 940s to 950s with around 5 to 6 minutes rest when I was at my fittest, because again, I was focused on running a marathon under 5 minutes and 25 seconds. So my goal was to get to a point where I could run moderately hard at sub 5-minute mile pace and run very hard at repeat miles on the track in the 440s with minimal rest. So again, training for 10 miles, you want to focus on very fast VO2 max type efforts on the track or on the roads, longer intervals, whether those are, and a big favorites of mine were 10 1 kilometers, or so 5K hard, 5K easy, and easy really wasn't that easy. My K pace was around 440 mile pace, and my easy K pace was around 630 mile pace. So it's you want to adjust that. So again, you're running fast, very hard anaerobic efforts, and very relaxed, well, somewhat relaxed aerobic efforts. So you have some form of recovery to attack again. And again, focus on your patience and don't be in a rush. It's going to be very hard in a training for a 10-miler early on. But when you're very fit and you have that confidence and you've become much more adapted to higher amounts of lactic acid buildup, whether those are longer tempo runs, you're doing your speed training, you're going to go into a 10-mile time trial much more prepared to run that 10 miles or those 16 kilometers at a very fast clip. But at least give yourself 2 days of a recovery between prior to doing that 10-mile time trial, and even 72 hours. The day before a 10-mile time trial, I would just jog 2 to 3 miles, nice and relaxed. You may do 3 to 4 100-meter strides just to remind your legs of what you're wanting them to do. Morning of the race or the morning of the time trial, make sure you eat your breakfast about 2 hours prior to doing that time trial. But again, don't go into a time trial taxed and fatigued. Yes, you can still do a 10-mile time trial in a heavy training buildup, but if you go into it feeling more fatigued and not giving yourself at least 2 days of rest, then just expect that it's not going to be as fast. Maybe your focus is just more on effort, and you really just want to get a hard 10-mile time trial in. Again, focus on your pacing. If you're going to wear a heart rate monitor, hover that heart rate at just over AT pace. So it's going to be anywhere from 165 beats a minute to closer to 180 to 180 plus in the last kilometers of the last few miles of that 10-mile time trial, because you're going to be picking up a pace, you're going to be fatigued, you're going to be wanting to sprint, so your heart rate's going to go higher. So if you're going to wear a heart rate monitor during that effort, those are kind of the areas, the focal point of your heart rate, of where you really want to focus on being at. Again, if you're anywhere under 130 beats per minute, you're really burning sugars more than fat. And heart rate is going to be impacted by age. It's going to be impacted by the temperatures outside as well. So if it's very hot out, I wouldn't even pay attention to wearing a heart rate monitor. I would go off of feel. Again, if it's going to be hot on the day of your 10-mile time trial, make sure that you do it earliest as you can. I've done time trials too. I remember about 6 weeks prior to running the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon, getting up, and I did a 20-miler, and I started at 5 a.m. sharp. It was in Tennessee, when I was stationed at Fort Campbell in Kentucky, as we lived right on the Tennessee-Canadian border. And I did a 20-miler. I averaged 5:30 per mile that morning. I ran 1 hour and 50 minutes and like 27 seconds, something like that. I was very, very strong. I was very fit. But that's what I was doing. I knew if I had done that 10-mile or that 20-miler later in the day, it was going to be much more hot. So it's very difficult to do a 10-mile time trial in the heat anyways. All of you know this. So make sure that you plan ahead of and check the weather forecast at least prior to, a couple days prior to that 10-mile time trial, to make sure that you're running in conditions that are going to be conducive to you running a fast 10-mile or 16-kilometer effort. Pay attention to your nutrition. I would definitely, if you're going to do a 10-mile time trial, make sure you have a couple water bottles put out at preferably, I would put it out every 3 miles. So you have one to grab at the 3-mile mark, you have another one to grab at the 6-mile mark. And put a gel packet out on your second water bottle too. That way you can grab that, or put it, attach it to the water bottle. You can, that way you have that immediate 100 to 150 meter or 150 calories of sugars that's going to go directly into your bloodstream at the 6-mile point. That way that'll keep you, that's a big, strong glucose glycogen boost right there at the 6-mile point, and you have another, 4 miles to go. So, trying to think what else that could help you all with the 10-mile time trial. Definitely visualize yourself weeks before going into whenever you have it planned. If it's 8 weeks out from now, or if it's 5 or 4 to 5 weeks out from now, make sure you're continually visualizing yourself running the type of time you're wanting for this distance, whether it's under 55 minutes, whether it's under 80 minutes for the 10-mile, or you're trying to really go crazy and try to run something really fast, super fast, under 50 minutes or under 65 minutes. we all have our own goals in mind when it comes to running fast over our chosen distance. So the 10 mile is a very fast event. It's a mixture of aerobic and anaerobic, so you definitely have to implement speed. You have to implement longer runs, easy recovery jog runs as well. Focus on doing those strides I talk about too, 2 to 3 times per week. They're very short. They're not going to build up any lactic acid, but again, it will help you in working on your overall speed, your accelerations, your form when you're running very fast, and also focus on during your train up to this point, up to your 10-mile time trial. Make sure you're focusing on staying as relaxed as you can during those hard speed workouts, intervals. If you're doing hill repetitions, focus on form, but staying as relaxed as you can. Always watch the best middle to long distance runners. They always look very relaxed, and they do that for a reason. They've trained well below goal race pace, but they also know the importance of running relaxed. Okay, so those are my tips on some of the things you need to be really thinking about as you go into your 10-mile time trial, and thinking of what a 10-mile time trial training plan should really focus on. It is, like I said, a combination of training well below goal race pace, at goal race pace, and much slower than race pace, obviously, so that you can recover and get the best results on your chosen day that you choose to do this. So if there's any other questions or concerns I can help you out with in terms of running fast over this distance or any distance, let me know in the comment section below. If you can, give me a like. It helps the channel grow. It helps the more people see these videos. And definitely reach out to me anytime. I'm always available to all of you. I don't care where you're at in the world, what your current capability is. What I want you all to do is to get better results by working smarter rather than harder. That is the end goal, to use leverage. So I will talk to you all in the next video. I wish you all the best in your 10-mile time trial. Definitely let me know how it goes, regardless of what time you're going for. Let me know, and I hope you get a huge PR on the day you choose. So I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.